Hi, I'm Kermit. I'm a frog.
He was the mastermind behind the Muppets, a true visionary whose influence forever transformed television and movies for all ages. A gentle soul who reshaped the world of imagination. But how did a quiet boy from a small town in Mississippi become an entertainment icon? Stay with us as we pull back the curtain on an extraordinary life, including lesser-known productions, such as a 1966 Oscar-nominated non-Muppet film starring a certain young man, as well as a string of TV commercials that helped launch a career, and more that even the biggest fans may not know about.
You know, people who don't drink Wilkins coffee just blow up sometimes.
Oh, that's a lot of...
See what I mean?
This is the story of the man whose genius was compared to that of Walt Disney. This is the story of Jim Henson. James Maury Henson was born on September 24, 1936, in Greenville, Mississippi, to Paul, an agronomist for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and Betty, a humorous and creative homemaker. Jim's lineage of creativity went back at least as far as his great-grandfather, Oscar Henson, who was a farmer. Oscar instilled in his offspring a strong sense of hard work, creativity, and family. Now, you'd think that Oscar Henson was the inspiration for the Sesame Street character Oscar the Grouch, but you'd be mistaken. According to Carol Spinney, the original puppeteer for the Grouch, he was named after a very grouchy waiter at Oscar's Salt of the Sea restaurant in New York City. Jim's maternal grandmother, Augusta Brown, affectionately known as Dear, had a significant influence on Jim's creative development. Dear went to art school and nurtured skills in painting, sewing, and other crafts. She shared those skills with Jim as he was growing up. Those sewing skills would come in handy when he began creating his own puppets. It's easy to see how the Henson family raised such a creative, intelligent, humorous, and gentle human. Jim's father, Paul, was a driven man. In 1927, he got his B.S. degree from Iowa State College, now Iowa State University. While there, he was a member of the Dramatic Club. In 1930, Paul Henson got his Master's of Science from the University of Maryland. That is where he met Jim's mother, Betty. When Jim was a child, Paul Henson's career took the family back to Maryland, near Washington, D.C. 20 years after that, Jim would meet his own future bride, Jane, at the very same university.
Stay away from women. That's my motto.
Jim Henson was fascinated by television from the very beginning. In the late 1940s, there were 48 TV stations across the entire U.S. By 1949, 1 million households had a TV set. Fast forward 6 years to 1955, when there were over 30 million homes, nearly half the U.S., that had a TV in their living room. Jim later admitted that he had basically badgered his parents into buying the family a television set. To give you an idea of the magnitude of Jim's request, in 1950, a 16-inch black and white TV cost roughly $300. In 2024 dollars, that would be like asking your parents for something that cost $3,000. Could you even imagine? In 1954, Jim Henson was a senior at Northwestern High School in Maryland. Keeping an eye open for an opportunity, Jim heard that the local CBS affiliate, WTOP, was looking for teenagers who could work marionettes. While Jim was a member of Northwestern's puppetry club, he considered himself more of a traditional artist. But if puppetry was going to get his foot in the door of television, Jim dove in.
And you're telling us that you went into puppetry just as a way to get into television?
Yes, because I wanted to work in this field. I loved it.
He got his hands on a couple of books on the subject of puppetry. My Profession by Sergei Obrakstov and The Puppet Theater Handbook, a complete guide for the puppeteer by Marjorie Batchelder. Unknown to Jim at the time, those two books would change the course of his entire life. Jim quickly impressed WTOP executives with his drive and creative ideas. Jim Henson was often described as a calm, soft-spoken individual.
He was a very rare creature. He was so internal and quiet that his inner life must have been sparkling.
His mannerisms may have been gentle, but he exuded an infectious energy. By 1955, Jim was a student at his father's alma mater, the University of Maryland. Impressed with his work at WTOP, the NBC affiliate WRC-TV offered the teen the opportunity to do a 5-minute puppet show that aired live twice a day.
I heard of a TV station that was looking for a puppeteer, so I painted the scenery and I built the puppets and wrote the materials and auditioned and got a job, and that's kind of how it all started. I did this thing that was called Sam and Friends. It was late at night. It was on at 11:30, which was a strange kind of time for a puppet show. But at the time, we never thought of ourselves as being particularly for children.
Jim recruited a fellow art student he admired named Jane Neville to help him create and perform on his new show he was calling Sam and Friends. Between classes, Jim and Jane worked tirelessly at improving their craft, ending each day performing the 2 live shows. Jim had a platform to experiment with puppetry and television techniques. With Jim's innovative puppetry and Jane's artistic contributions, Sam and Friends was a big hit in the Washington, D.C. area, winning Jim a local Emmy Award in 1958. Still living at home, Jim created a new character for Sam and Friends out of one of Betty Hanson's old coats and 2 halves of a ping pong ball. At first, it wasn't male or female. It certainly wasn't a frog. The character even wore wigs in some sketches. In fact, Jane regularly puppeteered the character while they referred to it as the little green guy. Over time, the puppet took on Jim's personality, and it eventually developed into Kermit the Frog.
From New York City, the National Broadcasting Company presents Tonight, starring Steve Allen.
In 1956, Jim was asked to perform on NBC's Tonight Show starring Steve Allen, the original host of the show that would later become The Tonight Show. Jim and Jane performed with several of their puppets, including their pre-Kermit one, bringing his style of puppetry and humor to a national audience.
I'd like to introduce a couple of people now. There are 2 young college students, Jim Henson and Jane Neville. Here are the Muppets.
Surely I could always be that way again. Accustomed to your voice.
In a short time, Jim began receiving offers to create television commercials. In 1957, Jim began a campaign for Wilkins Coffee, a Washington, D.C. based brand. The ultra-short spots were very innovative and wildly entertaining. Many may not realize that Jim never thought of his style of puppetry as children's entertainment.
With this camera, I shoot pictures of people who don't drink Wilkins coffee. I'm ready. Shoot. Anybody else?
Back in those days, Jim's humor used campy violence to give the advertisement's message a bigger, well, punch.
Put your money in here and you get a cup of Wilkins coffee. I don't want any. Then push that button. How about a cup of Wilkins?
Jim created two opposing characters, Wilkins, a cheerful advocate for the coffee brand, and Wontkins, who didn't like coffee and didn't want to try the brand.
Want a cup of Wilkins coffee?
What'll Mr. Wilkins do if I don't?
Oh, he'll probably put his foot down.
The Wilkins campaign was a big hit. A flood of commercial work came in.
Do you like to eat? Yes. Do you like to eat bread? Yes. Do you like to eat Kern's bread? No? Oh, shall we try that again?
Behold a sad bride who can't cook.
I can't even boil water.
Behold a dragon who lurketh in the pantry.
Lurk, lurk.
Hey, it's a lurking dragon.
The Choy dragon, my lady, with Choy chow mein.
With tons of new work coming in and the need to hire staff to help fulfill the demand, Jim and Jane formally created Muppets, Inc. in 1958. There was a strong professional partnership between them. Many believed that Jim and Jane were boyfriend and girlfriend throughout Salmon Friends, culminating with them getting married. The truth is that Jim and Jane were actually engaged to other people during most of the Salmon Friends years.
We were kind of dating other people and everything. We had life going on during Salmon Friends.
On May 28, 1959, 24-year-old Jim and 22-year-old Jane married at Jane's parents' home in Salisbury, Maryland. After a brief wedding trip, the couple settled in Bethesda, Maryland, until their move to New York in 1963. The first national star for the Muppets was not Kermit the Frog. It was Rowlf the dog, who was a Muppet created in 1962 for Purina Dog Chow.
Purina Dog Chow will really make a hit with your dog.
Are you sure it'll make a hit?
Positive.
Rowlf had a unique design. His head was created by using half of a basketball, which was covered with fabric, looking like fur, to give him an expressive, floppy look. Jim infused Rowlf with his voice, his humor, and his charm, which quickly caught the attention of the producers of The Jimmy Dean Show, a popular variety TV program featuring the country music star and, yes, the creator of the Jimmy Dean sausage brand. Jim pitched them the idea of having Rowlf become Jimmy Dean's comic foil and sidekick. Jimmy Dean loved the idea. 1963 marked what many consider a turning point in Jim Henson's career, when Rowlf became a regular on The Jimmy Dean Show.
This is National Dog Week, and we invited an old friend of ours, and this is Rowlf, and we'd like you to say hello.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here as official spokesman for the dog world.
Rowlf was a fan favorite for his charm, humor, and musical talents.
You know what? You really come off tall hogging the trough last week. I'm telling you, you were very big. How's it feel to be a big TV star?
He remained a regular until the show ended in 1966.
Hi. Here I am in jail for 187 years. Perry Mason finally lost a case and it had to be mine.
The show gave Jim Henson regular national exposure, showing what he could do with his innovative ideas and talent. In the spring of 1964, Jim began developing a non-Muppet film project originally titled Time to Go.
I have a short film that I made called Timepiece. It's just a study of contemporary man sort of thing. You know, kind of a fun look at it.
Jim Henson had a fascination with the passage of time as a philosophical concept.
It's a film that's made of a lot of little short segments chopped together, and it's a way of editing that I was enjoying doing at the time. It's sort of like kind of train of thought editing.
He felt that he could use the premise of an ordinary man, played by Jim himself, who is in constant motion and attempting to escape time's inevitable progression. The dialogue was no doubt easy for Jim to memorize. The entire script called for Jim's character to say one single word.
Help! 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 Help!
Eventually renamed Timepiece, the film premiered in 1965. The film was praised for its innovative editing, rhythmic pacing, and imaginative visuals. In 1966, Jim was notified that Timepiece was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Live-Action Short Film. Although the film didn't win the Oscar, the nomination proved to himself and others that his versatility and creativity went beyond the Muppets. In the case of the first time that Jim Henson met Frank Oz, from practically that very moment, they began what was to become a remarkable collaboration and friendship that influenced the world of puppetry and entertainment. Jim met Frank in 1961 at the Puppeteers of America Festival in California. Frank was there with Vagabond Puppets, a group run by his parents. Jim and Frank hit it off immediately, sharing a very keen sense of humor. Jim offered Frank a position with Muppets Inc., telling him that he could start immediately. There was one problem. Frank Oz was only 17 years old and still in high school in Oakland, California. Frank went back to finish high school, officially joining Muppets Inc. in 1963. The duo first worked together performing on The Jimmy Dean Show. Later, they co-created and performed on The Muppet Show and co-directed the Dark Crystal film. The relationship between Jim and Frank has often been compared to that of Ernie and Bert, the characters from Sesame Street. Ernie was created and performed by Henson with his playful nature, while Oz's more serious demeanor was embodied by Bert.
I would have put down the ducky, but I'm not in control here. Where's Frank Oz when we need him?
Jim Henson is a true American treasure. His tenderness for humanity, his creativity, his generosity, his many innovations, and his expression of imagination will certainly be difficult, if not impossible, to match.
Do you know me? I created the Muppets.
Big deal!
Everybody knows them, but not me. So when I travel, I carry the American Express card.
You can see it in every single thing that he touched. The Jim Henson Company is still a family-run business, with Brian Henson serving as chairman and Lisa Henson holding the position of CEO.
If our message is anything, is that it's a positive approach to life. That life is basically good, and by taking a positive approach to it all, it makes life a lot easier.
The Jim Henson Foundation is a nonprofit dedicated to promoting and developing the art of puppetry. Started in 1982 by Jim himself, the foundation has awarded over 1,200 grants to support the creation and new works of puppet theater.
I love doing what I do. I can't imagine anybody else, having as much fun in their work as I do. I'm very fortunate to be doing the kind of thing that I enjoy doing more than anything else.